Well, hello again. I didn't comb my hair this morning because I thought I might do a. I'm Professor Simon Lichtenstein, and I put out all kinds of science fiction rubbish because I understand nothing about science and physics. But I thought I'd leave that for another day. Plastic Professor. Good for a laugh is that particular chap. That's about all. Now, as I mentioned yesterday, of course, Freeman Dyson invented the sphere back in 1960, without whom we wouldn't have football, soccer, cricket, golf, tennis, those sort of games today. They all involve knocking around spheres. Okay, back to the serious stuff. Now, the lighting's different today because it's actually overcast. You know, it's, what is it? It's the 23rd of June, which is the equivalent of the 23rd of November in the UK. It's still pretty warm, you know, it's had a bit of rain yesterday, might have some rain today, but, you know, the lighting is a little different today because normally it's brilliant sunshine, cloudless sky, and there's a sort of bright, there's a shadow cast over me because I'm sitting out here, and there's a patio roof thing over. But today it's a bit overcast, so the lighting's a little bit different. As the lighting is poorer, I might actually look a bit younger. Hang on, let's just adjust that a little bit. Is that better? Yeah. Okay, now, as usual, it's a Sunday morning. I made the other video yesterday, Saturday morning. I didn't really intend to make a video today. But I saw something that I felt I had to comment on. You know, I find the fake moon landing morons irksome. But what I was watching yesterday irked me just as much. I was watching Ron James from MUFON being interviewed. You know, MUFON? They say it stands for the, what's it, the Mutual UFO Network, but personally I think it stands for More Usual Effing Ordinary Nonsense. MUFON. More usual effing ordinary nonsense. Now, he was being interviewed and he showed small bits of material. This might be the monkey toenails I was talking about in the video yesterday. And I said I wonder if they're going to be available for independent analysis. And he showed a picture of this. They were actually sent it anonymously by a Russian, apparently. You know, what a provenance. What a provenance. It was sent anonymously from Russia. Now, they've said they've analysed it. The Russian analysis says it's a metal alloy, but the metals are unknown. And the MUFON lab has analysed it and come to the same conclusion. Which is quite interesting. Is that me moving around with the camera? The little mount is sort of hydraulically damped, maybe it moves around. Anyway, so they've been sent this material anonymously. It was analysed in Russia. They say it's a metal alloy, but the metals are unknown. So anonymously, what a provenance for a start. Nothing can be checked about the origin of this stuff, but that doesn't matter, as you'll find out very soon. And the MUFON lab has also analysed it and found that it's a metal alloy, but the metals are unknown. So the question I have to ask is, if it's a metal alloy, but the metals are unknown, the materials are unknown, how do they know it's a metal alloy? How can they possibly know it's a metal alloy? So they're going to have a reference, aren't they, to know it's a metal alloy. So if it's unknown metals, you know, it's unknown materials, how do they know it's a metal alloy? This is nonsense, isn't it? Okay, so it says, now, perhaps unsurprisingly, these small pieces of material have been lost in the post. So they're not going to be presented at the MUFON Symposium after all. They're not going to be available for independent analysis. You all remember the old story, you know, yeah, I sent you the money, the check's in the post. So the pieces of extraterrestrial material, can you imagine how valuable something like that would actually be? And someone's posted it's got lost in the post. The dog ate my homework. You know, what a load of rubbish, really. I mean, does anyone really believe this? I mean, this is... This would insult the intelligence. Have a cheese and pickle sandwich, it really would. So they're not going to be available, these materials are not going to be available for the MUFON presentation. And they're not going to be available for independent analysis. As I said yesterday, MUFON have no interest in talking to Arrow, presenting any evidence to Arrow, because they know Arrow is in a position to investigate anything that they're shown or told, and it will be found out to be complete and utter rubbish in no time at all. Be science fiction rubbish. That's why they don't. That's why MUFON's not interested in talking to Arrow. Just like Bob Lazar and all these other piffle peddlers that are still hiding under the table, all these whistleblowers. You know, they must be blowing dog whistles because I'm not hearing anything, I'm not seeing anything. They're all hiding under the table. No, they'll check our stories out, they'll know we're lying. And of course they must know they're lying, otherwise they'd have no problem telling the story to Arrow. You know, and Arrow could come back and say, well, it's not true. And they go, oh no, really? You know, I believed it, I was told it. They don't want to talk to Arrow because they know it's going to be found to be complete and utter rubbish. They know it's rubbish. They know none of it's true. The other thing, so you know, if MUFON presented anything to Arrow, it will be shown to be science fiction rubbish very quickly, probably overnight. Mr. James also showed a picture of a crashed flying saucer. I'm tempted to show a still of that. But I can't be bothered, to be perfectly honest. I've got a lot to do today, so I'm just going to knock this video out and get on with it. A crashed flying saucer, and of course it's a typical saucer, you know, it's got a little dome. Looked absolutely fake, looked like it was from a 1950s science fiction movie. Now, very obviously fake. If this is the sort of stuff they're going to be presenting at this symposium, save your money. I mean, it's claptrap. Now, this picture would insult the intelligence of a cheese and pickle sandwich. I mean, I looked at it and fell about laughing immediately, you know. It was actually shown on a... He was being interviewed by somebody, and I froze it at that point, so I had a still and looked at it, and I thought, this is drivel, you know. Is this the best they can do, really? MUFON, which is supposed to be one of the more respected UFO investigation clubs, societies, organisations. But they're having to dredge up all this rubbish, this science fiction nonsense, because the wind is going out of the sails of this entire visiting ET story. That's the bottom line, you know. All the whistleblowers are hiding under the table. You know, it's a deflating balloon. It's rapidly deflating. And these people are trying to keep it pumped up. Because there's a lot of people that are saying this is all rubbish, you know. I thought that at one point I thought there might be something to it, but now I'm convinced there's nothing to it. None of these witnesses are coming forward. We're not seeing any evidence. It's all bullshit, which is exactly what it is. Now, have you noticed, if you get to see this picture presented by MUFON of the crashed saucer on the ground, have you noticed how all crash flying saucer pictures show the saucer intact? No. They're saucers. and they're usually sticking out of the ground at an angle. Usually it's something like a 45-degree angle, you know, as described by Danny Sheehan, the picture he saw, you know, flying saucer sticking out of the ground, 45-degree angle, dome on top. Typical crashed UFO picture. Just go to Google, put in the search bar, crashed UFO, go to images, and look at all the images. Probably 98% of them are going to be a disc sticking out of the ground at a 45-degree angle with a dome on top. If I saw the picture that Danny Sheehan saw, I would probably fall about laughing. It's just very typical. And the reason for that is... Can you figure out why that is? It's all a complete disc sticking out of the ground. Or in the case of the one presented by MUFON, it was a slightly less angle, sitting on the ground, sort of like that. But you could see it was a saucer with a dome on top. Now, does anybody know why we always see a completely intact saucer on the ground, sticking out of the ground at a 45-degree angle? Anybody? It's so it can be recognised as a flying saucer. It's so you can recognise it's a flying saucer. They're sticking out of the ground at an angle. They're sitting on the ground, you know, with a little dome on top. It's so you can recognise it as a flying saucer. If you look at plane crashes, if you look at pictures of plane crashes, they're unrecognisable. Look at an airliner crash, you can't pick out what sort of plane it was most of the time. Most of the time you can't even tell it was an aircraft. It's just debris everywhere, you know. You can't even make out the airline. There's no pieces big enough to have the airline name written on it. You know, that's the difference between plane crashes and flying saucer crashes. Plane crashes, debris everywhere, you know, unrecognisable as an aircraft. Flying saucer crashes, always a saucer sticking out of the ground. It's never just a field of debris, you know, that you can't recognise as anything. You know, it could be a plane crash. Could easily be a plane crash, you know, but they don't show you that, because you can look at that and you say, oh, that could be a plane crash. It has to be completely intact so you can recognise it as a saucer. And that tells me it's all fake. You have to be able to recognise it as a saucer. You need that confirmation. You can't look at a field of debris and someone say that's a flying saucer. Well, a flying saucer's crashed. You know, people are going to say, well, it could be anything. And all of the crashed UFO pictures depict the same scene. You know, there's different shapes and sizes of flying saucers. Most of them have domes, but they're all sticking out of the ground, or sitting on the ground, maybe at a funny angle, but they're all intact. I only saw one that had a bit missing out of it. But it still had enough of it left that you could see that it was originally circular. So it was a bit missing out of the top edge, you know, as the thing stuck in the ground, you know. And it's completely and utterly ridiculous. Science fiction rubbish. So, now, you know, presenting something like that, a MUFON Symposium, pathetic. Pathetic science fiction rubbish. They should be ashamed of themselves, really. And this guy, what was his name again? Where's my other bit of paper? Mr. James, Ron James from MUFON. He also said experiencers are also being sent anonymously these little bits of debris. We're only talking about little tiny pieces, and he showed a piece in a hand, I think, a little tiny piece of debris. From an alien spacecraft that's been shot down. As I've said before, no one on Earth has the technology to shoot down an alien spacecraft, you know. Detection and avoidance systems on alien spacecraft, if they can get here from somewhere else in the galaxy, they're going to be beyond our imagination. You're not going to be able to paint one with radar and shoot it down. It's just nonsense. Science fiction drivel. But anyway, apparently experiencers in quote marks, you know, these people that experience consciousness connecting with ET, you know. So what CE5 does, you sit in a deck chair out in the field, out in the bush, and you look at the stars and you know, consciously, I'm connecting with ET. These experiencers, or these people that claim they've had aliens at the bottom of the bed, they just stand there for weeks on end, just looking, you know. This was well worth flying across the galaxy for. You know, we got another 3 weeks of this, and we, Horace. Yeah, another 3 weeks. On our roster here, it says we've got to stand at the bottom of this guy's bed for another 3 weeks. Yeah. 2 of us have got to look through the windows, though. Oh, okay. Well, let's see if we can get outside. Absolute terrible, isn't it? Anyway, apparently these experiencers are being sent small pieces of debris. It's ET debris, supposedly. Alien spacecraft debris, and they're being sent it anonymously. Again, what a provenance. If this is true, which I doubt, I think again this is just an exercise to keep the balloon inflated. You know, the UFO ET balloon, 'cause it's rapidly deflating. People are going, this is a load of crap. You know, the origin, you see, what you've got to bear in mind is that although the materials will be sent anonymously, there's going to be, if they send it in the post, there's going to be a postmark on the envelope, isn't there? It's not going to be a parcel. So they're going to know where it's been sent from, approximately. You know, if I sent something from here, it's going to say this particular town in Western Australia. You know, so on the postmark. So personally, I doubt that. I think we would have seen at least 1 or 2 of them come forward with these bits of material by now. It would be good if they did, because then we could get it, or they could get it independently analysed by independent universities, or even Arrow. That won't happen, of course, because I very much doubt this stuff exists. The other question you've got to ask yourself is, if these experiencers are being sent these ET materials in the post and they're receiving them, why does MUFON's piece of ET material get lost in the post? Just like the cheque I sent you, you know, that cheque for 15 grand I sent you last week. I did send it, honest. It must have got lost in the post. So if these little bits of ET material reach the experiencers without any problems, why, as soon as MUFON posts one of these things, does it get lost in the post? It's ridiculous nonsense, isn't it? It's science fiction. It's science fiction. It's science fiction rubbish. Oh, something just kicked up in the background. Now, a regular viewer has asked me to do a video giving my opinion on what I think the phenomenon is, because you can probably hear that in the background. That's just a ham radio repeater, and if you can read Morse code, you'll know which one that was. Now, so it's a local repeater here. So get your pencils out, guys. You might hear it again. So anyway, regular viewers asked me to do a video giving my opinion on what this phenomenon actually is. Now, when I've done videos in the past, you know, I've said what I think is really going on. It's like with the Calvine incident, you know, with the diamond-shaped thing with the Harrier in the background. And I've said, well, you know, you can see that the diamond-shaped vehicle has got aerodynamic stabilising fins at the back, vertical and horizontal stabilising fins, you know, so it can adjust its pitch and yaw with the vertical and horizontal stabilising fins at the back. Alien spacecraft is not going to need that. You know, if you've got exotic propulsion that gets you here from another part of the galaxy, you'll be able to position that any way you like without aerodynamic stabilising fins. Not an alien spacecraft. The shape of it suggests either some sort of stealth. I think I've said this before, actually. Yeah, so you know, it's some sort of stealth experiment. You know, they're looking at the different angles of the diamond, how radar reflective it is. You know, what sort of radar observability it has with the you know, fairly sharp angles on the diamond, on the side of the diamond. And it could have been an LEMV, you know, long endurance multi-intelligence vehicle, where it's lighter than air, but it's full of electronic equipment that monitors communications and radars and looks at frequencies and repetition, pulse repetition rates and all this sort of stuff. Could have actually been maybe trying to passively track the Harrier as the Harrier flew around it, but what it wasn't was an alien spacecraft, you know. So I could do a video where I just go through maybe half a dozen of the better known cases and then give my opinion as to what it actually is. I mean, I think the Princeton Nimitz encounter is very obviously, you know, the Princeton had a top secret system upgrade all the software on the radars and all this sort of stuff. Didn't even tell the crew that it was done. And then Kevin Day, the radar operator, he said he's got these targets moving very slowly. They're every day of the week, 5 targets or whatever they are, go from the top of the screen to the bottom at 120 knots. It'd be very easy to go and investigate something like that, wouldn't it? But it's obviously they're being painted on the screen by a software glitch. You know, they say these things, 80 Gs, they're going, you know, from space down to the surface in an instant. Well, nothing can do that because it's a software glitch. There's nothing physically there. That's what I think is going on with that. And of course, you know, you've got the people like Favor and all these sort of guys are going out to investigate these these radar returns, and their head's already full of UFOs. The screen's full of UFOs. That's what they're expecting to see. And Mick West pointed out, you know, a little bit of trigonometry using the numbers on the head-up display of the F-18, looking at the tic-tac. And you can, using a simple bit of trig, you can tell it's very slow moving and it's at 13,800 feet. And I even did the calculation myself and found that's the correct numbers. The numbers don't lie, you know. So it was probably a lighter than air little blimp thing that had been launched from a submarine, because remember the fighter pilot said it was all roiling under the surface, and he saw the tic-tac was roiling under the surface. It's probably just been launched from a submarine, and the submarine was diving. It had probably been launched to go up to a certain altitude and monitor all the communications and radars and everything else from the military exercise that was going on. That's what the tic-tac was, you know. I think that's pretty obvious, you know. And you could get a balloon to go up to a certain height and stay there just by knowing what the density of the air is at the altitude you want the balloon to stop at. And then you put that density of air in the balloon, or gas in the balloon, it'll go to that height and it'll stay there. It'll just stay there. It won't keep going. It'll just go up to that height and stay there. So that's what that was. You know, they say, oh, they're doing all these fantastic manoeuvres. All these fantastic manoeuvres. They just can't be done by terrestrial machinery, you know. But the F-18 is following the other one, the Go Fast, you know, where it's looking at it in infrared and all you can see is like a thing going like that, you know, like a shape going like that. Oh, it's rotating, look at that, you know. But it's not doing anything the F-18 can't match, is it? It's not doing any of this stuff that we hear about. And they say there's no visible means of propulsion, but it's looking at it in infrared. It's a lot of heat, it's big heat signature. So there's obvious means of propulsion with the Go Fast. They're just looking at the back end of a jet aircraft, you know. It's generating a lot of heat because it's burning paraffin to push it through the air. It's not exotic, is it? And the other thing where it shoots off to the left, as I think Mick West has got that right, it's just a pod realigning, you know. It's all science fiction rubbish, all of this stuff. I mean, I could do one video and just go through maybe half a dozen of those top cases. And I mean, even Kevin Day, the radar operator on the Princeton, himself has said, you know, he said he thinks he knows what was going on there, but he's going to keep it to himself because he doesn't want to destroy the credibility of the story. So Kevin Day knows it's system glitches after a software upgrade. It's very common, you know, you upgrade a complex system and you get system glitches. And then you go back and you fix the glitches. It's common. So, you know, Roswell, pretty obviously, mogul balloon number 4, you know, balloon string number 4. And if people had been there at the time, if they could have been there and live streamed it, if that technology was available at the time, we would have seen Mac Brazzle picking up balsa wood strips of balsa wood, you know, bits of tin foil, scotch tape. You think aliens come across the galaxy, land in the Walmart car park or whatever it is, or the hardware stop, they go and buy scotch tape? Bits of cardboard, rubber strips. That's what Mac Brazzle said he found at the Roswell crash site. And he found it on June the 14th. Nothing to do with July the 7th, the storm July the 7th. The debris had already been in his field for 3 weeks by that point. So, you know, I think, you know, Rendlesham is probably plasmas created in the damp air because there was a fault at the BBC high power World Service transmitting station. You know, it had 6 antennas forming a beam across Eastern Europe. If you upset the phasing of those antennas, the beam goes in different directions. And I think there was a fault with the phasing. It just beamed all that power, and it's close to 3 megawatts of high frequency electromagnetic field, and it's modulating as well. Beamed it back into the forest, you know, a couple of miles away, and it's just formed plasmas in the damp air. That's all that was. You know, there's nothing going on with any of this stuff really that doesn't have a terrestrial explanation. And the rest of it just falls apart at the seams when you look at the stories told by the different people involved, you know. And you know, Princeton touched the craft, you know, when did that come to light? Years afterwards, was it? He never told his senior officer he did that. Wrote down all that rubbish, and then the binary, and it's just nonsense, you know. It's just trying to keep that balloon inflated. This, you know, ET really is coming here. Claptrap. The Malmstrom Air Force Base, you know, people are saying they were there at the time. It was just an ordinary, it was a power glitch, you know. There was a big solar flare going on at the time. It was affecting power all over the United States. So the power went off. It was just an ordinary power glitch. No one saw any orbs or anything on that occasion. You know, there's a UFO reported over a nearby town 3 or 4 days later. It's all super embellished science fiction rubbish, all of it. You know, if there's some tangible evidence produced that's verified by some respectable universities, by a number of respectable universities, and verified to be extraterrestrial, technological or biological material that's been recovered somewhere on this planet, then I'll be happy to accept that. Until then, it's all science fiction rubbish. And you've got to ask yourself why do these people not want to talk to Arrow? You know, why all these people are going to come forward and suddenly they're not going to come forward, you know? MUFON's got this ridiculous photo. I mean, yeah, and their physical evidence has disappeared. It's been lost in the post, you know. I mean, come on, guys, really, you know. It's just science fiction, wall-to-wall science fiction rubbish. All right, well, I think that will do. As I say, I might do that video. Half a dozen of the best cases. I've probably just done it, half of it anyway. And what I think is going on. So the other thing too is, you know, these UFOs in Alaska. It goes from there to there to there to there. You know, it's like a laser pen. You know, you produce a dot on the wall with a laser pen, and your cat goes up the wall. You know, it's over there. It's over there. It's just not possible. No vehicle can move like that, and that's perfectly true. But what HAARP does is creates plasmas in the ionosphere, and it does that. It'll do that, and then it'll go like that, and then it'll go like that. And these plasmas are visible to the naked eye. So if you're seeing spectacular UFO stuff in Alaska, you know, it's probably going to be HAARP. And that JAL, you know, the thing over Alaska, where the guy was mothership going round his 747, you know. Now the co-pilot said all he saw was a light in the distance. The captain said that apparently the captain had reported being buzzed by alien motherships in the past. You know, there's just no credibility to any of this. If there was a funny radar return, primary radar return, then maybe it was just the 747's big piece of kit. You know, it's Alaska, it's very cold, it's flying through the air, it's disturbing ice particles. You know, as it flies through, you might disturb a cloud of ice particles. The particles become closer together, big enough to make give a primary radar reflection. So it looks like there's something behind the 747. Yeah, it's all rubbish. It really is. Anyway, that's it. Time for me to go and get on with my day. So, as always, if you've struggled through the video all the way to this point, thank you very much indeed for watching, and maybe I'll catch you again.